this. Okay, so guys, week 5, I can't believe it, 50% done, all right? I am so impressed with all your journeys and where you've been and where you're going, okay? And today marks a transition point because we are gonna be running into more of the operational side of things, right? Not to say that the previous 4 weeks talking about logic model was like not, we're gonna completely throw it away. No, we actually can just build on top of it, right? In fact, you can still have to go back to it once in a while as you are articulating your brand and then your leadership, how you're gonna fund this, everything is still connected to that logic model, okay? And today I'm super excited to be joined by Claire Holospinski. She is a communications officer at SAI and also the assistant director of operations at SAI. She's doing a dual function right now, but she is, I think, the right person for this conversation today, and she'll be jumping in here and there, providing insight and feedback. Okay, so Claire, welcome, and I'll let you say a few words about yourself. If anything I've missed, Claire, go for it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Fanuel. Yeah, great to see everybody again. And I'm so excited to hear about all your projects and all the work that you've done so far. It feels like it's crazy to think that you've only been here for 5 weeks, because in my head, it feels like you've been here a lifetime, but you still have an entire lifetime to go. So I'm super, super excited. But yes, so my comms kind of world, how I got started, how I've been in science communication, did my master's at UW-Madison in their life sciences communication program. After finishing in May 2020, jumped over with the Alda Center and became the science communication specialist at the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science in Stony Brook, New York. And much of my job there is focused on taking the science communications research and theories and helping others apply them within their own practice. And so I'm a huge science communication and communication like theory research like junkie. And so I can help people, basically I help scientists just share their own stories. And so that's really what drew me then to SAI, was just coming here and helping everybody in this community share their own story and share the story and the impact that SAI has within the larger STEM community. But other than that, yeah, I'm a completely open book, so I'm just excited to be here.
And you might see Winston.
Yes, Cece already made an appearance. You'll see Winston throughout. I have no control over them, so.
Winston's the cat, just to be sure. Okay, so as usual, I will do a quick debrief. Now I hope you guys all did your homework, okay, to listen to the lecture. My suggestion for these lectures, especially if they're long, just like over the week, just start playing. And I find myself washing dishes. I'll just play and listen. That's the way I do it. And that way it just sits in and then it marinates over the week, right? Don't try to cram it all in one go, right? And then this week was super easy. We just want that one video from Prasha, who gave a really great lecture and conversation last time. So I hope you watched it. But if you didn't, don't worry. I will do a quick review. All right, I'll do a quick review. So quick notes, Journal Club, remember, October 21st. If you can come, great. We're going to be reading this really great report that plays into exactly everything we're discussing. So if you can join, you'll meet up with some other C3s and C4s and C5s too, if you're lucky. So come by. The monthly seminar is this Saturday. Don't miss this if you are available. My goodness, the CEO of the First Star National STEAM Academy will be in attendance. She's fantastic. One of my college friends, in fact, she's a college friend of mine. So I am glad to have reconnected with her a couple months ago, and I asked her, can you please come and tell us about all your work? So you will get to see the logic model as she lays it out. Formative assessment, if you get a chance to do that, or if you haven't, go for it. Actually, it's not required, but if you have some thoughts, would love some. Remember the formative versus summative, very important to know the difference, okay? Informational interviews, some of you have already been doing these. So these are like talking with someone who is another founder. In theory, you essentially have been doing them through the Collab Exchange, which is great. Maybe what you can do is follow up, and if you made a contact during the Collab Exchange, follow up with one or two of them, right? That could be your kind of minimum floor. I do these very frequently, okay? Because they are a wonderful way to get to know someone and connect with them and learn from them as well. There will be a surprise release of a video tomorrow at 10 a.m. in our channel. Surprise release, okay? It's already scheduled to be released tomorrow. And you guys will get to see an informational, well, sort of an informational interview that I did today, in fact, earlier today. And it's very short, 20 something minutes, okay? A wonderful organization tool that Harvard, one of my close friends here, is head of content there developed. So you'll check it out. And I'll let you know when it's out. Don't worry. In Slack. And of course, office hours. I'm available anytime. So feel free to jump on. Okay, any questions at all so far? No? Okay, so a quick review. Remember the logic model. This is, keep this in tow. Make sure you're still developing your workbooks. Keep iterating. I think Kushbu and I, every time we meet, there's some red ink somewhere that we go over and edit and rechange and update things. So keep working on this. If you feel like you're done, you're not. Trust me, you're not. So for this assignment, pre-assignment, the work was really talking about your brand, right? So we are now migrating from the technical aspects of the logic model to try to frame it along these different contexts, right? And the first sort of foray is the personal branding and the project branding, right? So Prasha went over really wonderfully this way of thinking, and these are some of the comments that she put through her presentation, like what is a personal brand and why do you need one, right? I'll tell you here, this is a very uncomfortable thing, especially for graduate students, to talk about themselves and who they are, okay? So we're gonna be doing a little bit of this today, all right? Uncomfortable as it is, so be ready for it. And then the question in yellow here, why does your story matter? I want to bet most of you think my story doesn't matter. It doesn't, right? Common comment, okay? I say it does matter, and it's important to be able to tell that story, all right? And one of the things that Prasha made a really astute observation is that when there's a disconnect between your personal story and the logic as to why, like your project, like who you are in your project, when there's a disconnect between those two, then when things get rough, right, as invariably they do, the likelihood that that initiative fails is very high, right? Because then you are able to dissociate yourself very, very easily to say, oh, okay, I guess I was doing this for a while. It doesn't matter anymore. It's no longer important to me. So what you want to do is really think deeply about, how does my story connect to this thing that I'm building? How does my story connect to this thing that I'm building? All right, so we're going to get a little sense of that today in our discussion shortly. Other questions, how can you find your brand identity? So what do you do for others is the question. What do you do for others, right? What matters to you? All right, and building off that in the content strategy, and I add this in the strategy section here, and thinking about, notice I don't say, oh, Twitter, and how often do you post, and so forth. Not talking about that at all. We're talking about, who do you serve? How do you serve them? Where do you serve them? And why do you serve them? Answering these questions, by the way, the logic model should give you a lot of these answers very, very easily, right, by now. Answering these questions sets you up to think about, oh, well, why, the color scheme of my slides and the website design, right? Those are secondary. You want to think about these things first, because then when you know these things, it's easier to think about, okay, I need a designer who can help me design the website, or what should my website be saying, right? Is it serving who I am, my audience, right? And how is it serving them? Is it effective in what it's supposed to be doing? So this green box, in fact, is very, very important to keep in mind, okay? And a central idea, the more you serve, the more you grow. Quotation here, I'm not sure Prasha said it or Prasha quoted someone, but it's a central feature. You want to be serving, okay? And for me, it's always been you guys, fellows, and our residents, right? How can we make life better and easier for you to do the work that you're doing, right? It's very focused there. And so everything that we do, our social media, on our Slack channels, the funding, the collaborates, everything goes to that question. How can we serve you better, our residents? Okay. And in the last box here, of course, although important, don't get lost in the tools, right? The canvas and so forth. It's easy to get lost in there. Trust me, it's so easy. Make sure you're asking the right question in the green box. Claire, anything you want to add on this litany of things here?
I think it's a pretty extensive and great list. And there is one point that I do want to reiterate that you chatted or that you talked about last time, that's the fact that graduate students have a hard time telling their story. And I'd like to expand that too, to say that graduate students have a hard time removing their research from their identity in this story as well. And so as important as your work is, there's so much else and so many other parts of students, graduate students in particular, that you can pull upon. And especially the work that you all are doing right now in SAI, this all helps you in that way. And so knocking out each of these questions in these boxes and thinking about yourself as an individual aside from a graduate student at a university or institution can really help you pick things through there.
Yeah, it really is. Like, your projects are an extension of who you are. Think about that, right? An extension of who you are. So you want to really think deeply about what that extension is and how does it fit with your whole self, right? Okay, so with that said, as you guys know, I have posed some very basic questions here. I hope these will be kind of a setup for us to chat, okay? I don't want these to be prescriptive in any way. I just want us to have an open conversation. The first one is, who are you? Who are you? And why are you the right person to develop and run the initiative, right? Another way to frame that, the second one is, how does your personal story connect with your project? Okay, and the last one, then we can get into the weeds a little bit, okay? Give us a sense of what tools had you envisioned that you'd be using, right? Social media, if you were building kind of more of or you envision being more on a website or more Instagram. The point is not to do it all. And so Claire here is an expert in all of this. So we're going to have a little chat about that in a short while. But I would like us to just open the floor and go through as normal, one by one. Tell us who you are. Who are you, and why are you doing what you're doing, and how does your story connect with what you're doing? Okay, and I think this is a great chance for us to get to know you better also, in fact. Okay, so does that, please take a snapshot of this page. I'm gonna disconnect. I'll keep reminding you. And if you want to deviate from this, that's fine. Feel free to answer a slightly different question, maybe related. And then myself and everybody will jump on and give you feedback. Okay. All right. I'm not going to pick on people this time. I'm not going to do that. Just if you want to go first, just go first.
Wait, so are we like stewing on this for a couple minutes and then sharing?
Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah, I think it's good enough to think about it for a little bit.
Okay.
And then whoever feels courageous enough to go first can go first.
And well, can I actually add another question or thing, a tool to help them think about?
Absolutely.
Of those questions, so thinking about who you are, why you're best, how your story fits in, why you're the best person to tell that story, I also want you all to think about what audiences this story could reach best to. And then that will help you think about what tools to use and utilize there.
And then let's see, Khushbu, could you please have the questions again? Oh yeah, Miss right. So absolutely, Khushbu, sorry about that. I did disconnect that too quickly. Let's see, I'll make these bigger. Okay. And to help you, because I want you to get to think about this as well. I don't want you to put you on the spot sort of loosely. I'll try to give you some insight. When I was a postdoc, okay, at MIT, I was really bugged by the like I was looking for communities of people that were building programs or initiatives around STEM. Okay, I had all these ideas and also insights. I wanted to be able to have conversations with people and debate what to be done. And for me at that point, who was I? I was a postdoc who was confused about how they want to use their training. Do I do academia? Do I not do academia? Or do I do academia plus some? Do I do non-academia plus some? So I was in this headspace of confusion. Okay. And the early stages of SAI was kind of mimicking that a little bit, because I was trying to figure out, okay, how can we do this? So for me, I think that drive, that query, that I was looking for similar-minded people whom I can talk to, whom we can devise and build ideas together to solve really complex issues around STEM access, STEM equity, all these things. That to me just drove me mad. It's one of the reasons that the questions I was asking led me to leave the bench, right? To pursue a different line of inquiry completely away from the bench, that ultimately led me to build SAI on the side and for it to become what it is today. So I think for me, SAI is very much an extension of who I am, who I want to be. Also, it's another way to put it, who you want to be. You know, this inquisitive and collaborative, wanting to ask questions, engage with others, connect with others, and then all unified around the topic of science education, STEM, STEAM, and to see that sort of come to be and slowly coming to be, to me, it just motivates me. And I've gone through some hard times, absolutely, where this thing, I didn't know where it was going. People are telling me it doesn't make sense. Funders are like, nope. In fact, it'd be like, no for breakfast, no for lunch, no for dinner, right? And so when that hits, man, you gotta go deep inside and find out who the heck you are and why you're doing this. Okay, so hopefully that inspires you a little bit, okay? So the floor is open.
I'm still more than happy to go first if no one else wants to.
Sam, go for it.
So who am I? I'm the world's most prolific mathematical podcaster. That's literally who I am. No one has produced as many hours of mathematical content as I have. And you know what? I'm tired of doing it by myself here. And I want to get other people involved. And I have more experience than anyone else. I have done this for not longer, but as long as anyone else, and more during that time than anyone else has. I'm the one who has spent the most time doing this, and also going out and learning more about other areas of audio production. Who's gone to union docs and taken a workshop that involved Benjamin Walker and Sean Cole and a bunch of other radio all-stars. And my personal story, how does that connect? Well, first, I remember being in undergrad, thinking, you know what, I listened to all of these podcasts. Mind you, this is like 2006, 2007, somewhere around there, thinking, oh, I listened to all these podcasts, there must be a math one, and looking and not finding one. And then eventually finding one and thinking like, you know what, I kind of like this, but it's not fulfilling everything I need. And then once I'm in grad school, I realized as much as I love mathematics, and I truly do, I love everything. Well, no, I don't love everything about mathematics. I've been quite public about that, actually. I love a lot of things about mathematics. And you know what? I love talking about it even more. I love talking about it way more. And so I decide that that's actually what I'm going to do, is I'm going to talk about it. That's going to be who I am. And I've done what I could to make that a paying job. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I've failed multiple times and ended up, living back at my dad's house because of it. But thank you, I'm a librarian now, and so that's all fine. And so I going down to this next one. What tools do you envision to share your brand? I thankfully already have a brand. I already, have. I still don't know how I do this. Like, I should have lost Twitter followers at some point since I don't use Twitter very much anymore, but I still have, 1,100 Twitter followers. I put a podcast up on my feed. I still get between 4,000 and 10,000 downloads. I have connections at every major mathematical organization in the United States, and most of the ones in Britain, as well as the International Mathematics Union. I can easily expand my reach and reach out to people there who at least work on informal communications things to get the word out about my formal one.
Cool. Thank you, Sam. The floor is open for feedback, comments, questions.
Sam, you convinced me you're the right person for this. And you just, I love everything you listed, and I love who you are and what you stand for and what you want to share with the world. So I don't know if I have any specific feedbacks, but all good things.
Thank you.
Kushbu is saying, I agree in the chat over there. So
Sam, I must say, I relate to your story so much because I remember being an undergrad too, and I did biochemistry, and I hated being stuck in the lab. But I've discovered that I liked talking about my research and what I was doing more, and especially like talking with my grandparents and trying to enable them to understand what I was doing. Granted, I failed tremendously. Don't try to explain membrane proteins to 65-year-olds. It doesn't go well. But that's what caused me to make the jump into science communication. And so the fact that you did that with your math podcast, and you did this like analysis of what was out there, you were in the know. You're like, okay, like there's these episodes and shows that do some stuff, but they're missing this big thing. And you've been around the block and you understand. And you also, I mean, you taught yourself how to do the audio portion of it. And I think that's just such like a big, it shows your sense and your drive and your passion. And play it up, my friend. Oh my gosh, that's really this. And I think that's helped you too in your brand so far and getting you to the points of where you're at right now. So just congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like I cheated since this is, I'm very happy to be an SAI fellow, but I am coming with more years on my clock than my fellows.
And
Actually,
sorry, Sam, I'll jump in, but you got a long way to go. There's still options and opportunities. So.
It's in fact, this is done intentionally. We bring people at different levels, different stages of their journey. Not to say one is like you're further along and better. Absolutely not. We're in different spots, and you can still grow from wherever you are. Right?
Oh, of course.
And I think from what I'm hearing from you as well, I think this aspect of who you are, when I go to a program website or something, I want to find out who the people are behind these initiatives. What makes them go? What makes them tick? And sometimes, actually a large portion of time, that is stripped away, completely stripped away. And I think that's a lost opportunity. So Sam is sharing his link. In fact, I should check this thing out. So he has a link down there as well. But what I love about all of you sharing like this in different stages is that you can help each other out. You can inspire each other, right? So Sam, thank you so much for sharing that insight. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'm happy to go next.
Hey, Mandy, go for it.
Okay. So I am definitely an extroverted scientist who is a lifelong athlete. And my sports experiences have shaped who I am as a person and as a researcher. So some of those fundamental characteristics that kind of help me succeed in every aspect of life were things that I learned from sports, things like resiliency, tenacity, my work ethic. So why am I the right person to run Sports Feminist? Well, that's exactly like I'm shaped because I am who I am because of sports, and connecting my passion for STEM and the human body and understanding the intricacies of injuries and regeneration was kind of how I got into STEM. So kind of connecting it and helping it go full circle. I believe that sports and STEM have helped me gain my confidence and shape my ability to talk in front of my teammates or my lab mates. There's so many translatable skills there. So I believe that empowering the next generation of middle school girls to, become strong in their bodies, strong in their minds, and really develop who they are and their identity. I'm the right person to do that. So how does my story connect? I think I am a product of my coaches, my teammates, everyone else believing in me, empowering me, and I would like to give back to the community and to the next generation. And I think a lot of times in situations, sometimes all you need is an opportunity. And I know that I've been afforded many opportunities in the research lab, getting REUs or an MIT summer research program that has just changed my life trajectory. So giving people the opportunity to have the same experiences that I have had that were invaluable. So what tools do I envision to share my brand and content? So I was just thinking about that in relation to my audience, like Claire was saying. So if I'm targeting middle school girls, I kind of probably have to do a little more market research. I'm like, okay, like a website for sure, a place where they can sign up along with their parents. I assume parents would be involved, but I'm like, so I need like a TikTok. Like, is this what middle schoolers are doing? Like middle school, or is that like high school? Like, I don't know. I'm not with it as much. So I think I have to do a little more market research or chat up Claire a little bit to see what the best tools would be. But I think a nice starting point would at least be a website for signing up for different events and that sort of thing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Questions, comments?
I really love your story, and I feel like who you are really speaks and connects well with the program that you're trying to develop. It just feels so natural, and I feel like you have a really exciting and engaging story that will really draw people in. I really like it a lot.
Thanks, Rose.
Thinking with my PR hat right now, take what you just recorded and turn that into a YouTube video, because oh my goodness, that was such a great story. And you're going to place it on your nice website that all the parents of all these kick butt middle school girls are going to head to sign them up for events and things. And unfortunately, yes, TikTok is where your target audiences are currently hanging out. And there's a whole breakdown. We can get in the nitty gritty on like where exactly middle school girls are. It's tough too, I will say. So adolescents and teens they're difficult to track on social media platforms just because you can get data from only those who are 18 and older, but there are, if there's connection, sibling connections, family connections, friends, et cetera, that kind of lend you to where your flock is hanging out. And so TikTok is where they are right now, but nonetheless, there's some really great content and things that you'd be able to mock up, but it's just,
I'll keep that in mind.
Awesome. And I think for all of you wondering, again, we hope all of you at least have a landing, like a website that on launch day is available for people to go to, right? Even if it's a one pager, right? So I think and we'll talk more about websites. And Sam, I think, with given your background, and you've tried to build some stuff, and some of you have different website building. Next week will be a lot of fun because I'll share with you my journey towards creating a website and all the stuff I went through. But also I want to hear your stories as well, and all lack thereof of like experience when I get in there. So we all can help each other next week. So that should be a lot of fun. Okay. Mandy, thank you so much for that. All right, so I'm going to call on Rose to go next.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to articulate everything. I am notorious for being kind of like verbose and roundabout, but I'll try and do it concisely. So I'm not going to tell you exactly who I am because I feel like my story will kind of play into that. So I grew up as an only child in an extremely conservative family, a little bit anti-science, and in general, I didn't have a lot of time for socializing, just because I didn't have siblings and I was so involved in school, and there were very few opportunities to hang out with friends and family. But board games were one of the ways, and games in general were a really big part of my childhood and formative years, and it gave me an opportunity to have fun and get to engage with others. And when I was going throughout school, and especially in high school, I had a really hard time paying attention to just lectures. But what I remember distinctly was that the most informative and most memorable moments were when we got to get together as a group, and you got to pair up with your friends and do these group activities that were not only like fun and engaging and exciting, but they really allowed you to take your own path and figure out what you needed to do to learn the concepts that they wanted you to learn about for the day. And then going throughout college and through my master's and graduate school, when I was teaching, what I found was you don't have a lot of time to develop your curriculum and a lot of time to develop these activities. You have all these grand ideas in your mind, but actually taking the time to do all that it's time consuming. You don't have a lot of resources, materials to work with, and oftentimes money to do the things that you wanted to do. And so this all really plays into what I'm passionate about. And I should add on. So I went to school in Texas, and over I heard, why is science important? It doesn't matter. Why should I care about this? Why should I care about biological anthropology, which is what I study? And I can think of a million reasons why, but what better way to show that by doing these fun activities and games? And so a big part of what I want to do is develop games for high school teachers to incorporate into their curricula, for teachers who don't have time to develop these programs or the money to develop these games, and be able to give them these tools to use in the classroom that are fun and engaging and memorable moments for their students. And so as far as tools, obviously I want to have a website, and I know that's also a requirement of the program, but I'm thinking Instagram, just because with board games, a really big part of that is visualization, the art. And so I feel like Instagram's a really good medium for attracting that. And also Instagram, I feel like is more of a millennial crowd, so it'll attract the high school teachers who I'm targeting. Yeah.
Wow, that's I was taken away by your story. I was like, keep going, keep going. So good job, good job. I was gonna say, if for Claire, I'm so impressed with everybody where they're being very targeted in terms of their social, for the tools. Like, I'm gonna use Instagram, well, I'm gonna use this, right, versus that. And I think that's actually really important, because there's a high tendency of people, I want to do everything. I want to do the Instagram, TikTok, and and maybe sometimes that works, but it's just overkill, and you don't have time to do it all, right?
Mhm.
So Claire, from your view, what's your take on which platform for what, right? The
Yeah.
diversity of platforms that are out there right now.
So yeah, and everybody's right on the money in picking the platforms that fit their audiences best. And so that's really what you want to take into consideration here. Cat bomb coming in. Yep, 3, 2, 1. And so, yes, thinking about and doing research on these different platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Tumblr, if you want to really throw it back to the early 2000s here, and new one, TikTok. Who knows what else is going to come out in the next 10, 15 years too. So we'll see what happens there. But keeping up with latest like market research and market analysis, and just knowing and putting yourself in the mindset of your target audiences. And Fanuel, what you said too about picking one platform and really putting a lot of time, effort, and energy and sticking with that is exactly what you want to do, especially if you're just starting out and starting a brand. And you want to, again, pick that platform based on your audience, but then really think about like the types of content that you can do on that platform. And sometimes there are ones that mesh well together, like Instagram and TikTok. The lines kind of are starting to blur between the two platforms, just because you can cross over content in a lot of different ways. But if it's something like Twitter and, or I should like a Facebook, LinkedIn, or TikTok and LinkedIn, like they're kind of on two different platforms. And so meshing them together will be tough. It's doable, but again, I for the limited time, resources, and energy that we all have sitting here, pick one, you're not supposed to, but put all your eggs in that basket and just do your work in there.
Exactly. Thank you for that. But okay, comments on Rose's pitch. Actually, that was basically almost a pitch. Oh, you have a website also already. Oh, wow, cool.
Perfect.
Right.
I would say, Rose, I am so impressed. And I love the way that you've been thinking about this and how you've developed your idea. And heck, I would have loved to be a high schooler and just sit and play games all day long like that. Those were the days I probably loved the most. And so the fact that you've taken that into consideration, and I think too, when you think about the paths of that typical high school curriculum take is sitting for 45 minutes in lecture with a whole bunch of students who are on their phones 24/7, or who knows what they were doing during the pandemic. And so they're multitaskers. They need to be doing and thinking about like even fidget tools that have come up too. And so the fact that you're taking these tools that gets them they're busy with their hands, and also that will incorporate their minds, that's going to be a huge sell to teachers, and then the fun impacts for students too, to get them learning.
Rose, I really liked how you acknowledged the fact that like you've come up with these ideas and teachers come up with these ideas, but time and money and things are lacking. So that's like you're bringing a solution where, hey, the teachers don't have to come up with all these things on their own. Like you're providing a solution to a problem that they have, and they want to make learning fun and exciting for everyone. And I like the solution that you're providing.
Thank you.
And the pain point actually too. Like I just remember hearing like, yeah, you were there and just you were trying to design these things that are fun and engaging because you wanted that for yourself, right? And I think for all of you, definitely do keep thinking about that. I think these pain points are a massive driver. Mine was so huge. It's still huge now. And it's funny that it's still an issue whereby it drives me. I wake up, I'm like, okay, how can we do this better? So the trains that are going by right now. There's lots of them. Okay, anything else before Khushbu takes us through her spiel? All right, Khushbu, the floor is yours.
Okay. So who am I? This is something that I really think a lot about, especially when it has to go in like one line or one term, but I stick with using commas because I have to. So I identify myself as an engineer, an artist, and a researcher. These are the three terms that I usually end up using with commas and an and. So, but at the same time, there's this term which is maker, which I really want to use because I think that it strongly associates with my identity, especially. But there have been instances where people are like, so who is a maker, and like, what do you do as a maker? And it kind of I would say that's the pain point, because I refrain from using it because I don't want to be explaining to people or the masses that, oh, I'm a maker because I make, and it's as simple as that. So I guess when it comes to the identity part, that's kind of the problem that I address, who a maker is. And because I keep I try to find the right mold, like an artist or an engineer, or like keep kind of tossing back and forth. And I kind of feel the sense of comfort in the term maker because it feels more broad and more kind of holistic. So I feel like going through this journey of figuring out or constantly exploring, I feel like I'm the right person to develop an initiative that aims to solve this problem about who a maker is. And why it can, and the way that it connects to my personal story is that lately I've come to kind of know that making is more of a process as opposed to a one-time solution or a final product. So which kind of makes me more rooted in the idea of the documentation and the process that goes behind making anything for that matter. So as an engineer, if I were to like design a product for a company, I have always been interested in the process, which is messy and often hidden, as opposed to the final finished product, which is super shiny and is something that people pay more attention to. Even on a personal note, if it's art, I definitely feel that I learn more through the goof ups that I've been making. So definitely it's the process of making and the essence that it carries when it comes to learning, especially about STEM for me, STEAM rather. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on this entire journey specifically. And the way that I want to do this is by targeting makers who are already in the maker community. And after like going through a lot of heavy discussion with Fanuel and a lot of back and forth with who the target audience should be, I guess I am now pretty much sold on the idea of creating a United Nation of makers who are basically maker leaders or leaders in the maker world. And I want to cater to these expert makers to kind of bring them together through a conference where they come and they tell their stories of failures or struggles while making. So that's kind of my goal, to kind of create a centralized place for everyone to learn and kind of get the sense of belonging that, hey, this is a process that all makers go through, and there's a place for us, as opposed to figuring out a way to define what a maker is. And broadly, the tool that I'm envisioning, at least for now, is a website, because there's a database that exists. There are some websites or platforms that already exist, and I guess two ways that I'm thinking that this website could work. One would be to become a sister website of maybe an already existing platform that does heavy making stuff, but mostly focuses on the end result or the end product. So this could basically just be the story telling platform, or more like the messy making part. Or I think I don't know if Fanuel, you'd be interested, but I was definitely looking in the science stories part, and then I thought that I could kind of push myself as a byproduct of that as well. I don't know, but how that could, or an add-on, maybe not a byproduct, but yeah, that is something that I'm thinking of. But yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Absolutely, I'm in. Yeah, it would totally work. And tomorrow's video release, you should totally watch it.
Okay.
Particularly, you should watch it. All of you should watch it, but okay, the floor is open.
Are there, what of the existing social platforms, including platforms that aren't necessarily the huge ones, do you see makers hanging out most on? Is it something like Instructables? Is it wherever like the actual files are hosted? I know that there's a couple of those, I can't bring them to mind, but where do you most find makers congregating on the internet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think Instructables is definitely one of them for people who want to keep it open-ended. But a lot of makers who are trying to kind of make a living out of making post their stuff on Patreon, like other artists. And also GitHub is, again, another open source platform, especially for people who are into coding and electronics. But there's this another specifically maker related platform, which is Make Projects, and they have this huge database where you can create a project and just store it under your username or whatever. But it's kind of like Instructables, but housed in the Make website, because Make is more of a brand for makers these days. But yeah, I think these are some of the tools that I can think of at the top of my head.
Is there still a large making community or maker community on Reddit?
Not that I know of, but for sure, like back in the day, I've heard that a lot of people would share things on Reddit, especially like in the maker community. But I haven't heard of any, because like most of them have moved to YouTube either, because they are, you know, running live, making videos or tutorials or goof ups. So that's something that I've definitely seen a shift in from Reddit. But yeah, at least most of my maker the people that I follow are either on Twitter or Instagram or their own YouTube channel or page.
Okay. Yep.
Mhm.
No, I was just wondering to see where you could reach out to these people who you want to connect with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, what's interesting is that today at 7, I actually have a maker educator meetup, and I'm trying to like source people there. That's kind of my goal, to pitch a rough idea to them and see how they take this initiative / idea as, and if they sound excited, I will start like pinning them in and be like, okay, we're doing this. So yeah, that's the goal.
I think that's awesome, Kushbu. And like one other thing that kind of came to mind when you were talking about how people document on YouTube, like their process, maybe like as you record. I know you had talked about like the conference style, or you have the experts kind of like talk about their process and everything. Maybe you have some repository of, maybe it is an in-person conference, but then you also have like a YouTube video or like informational interviews with these individuals, or maybe it's a blog or like some way to document it. And then it's not just that one-time thing that, you know, that one-time conference, you can have that forever and like have people go back to it if they didn't happen to be at the event or something like that.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that.
This sounds so cool, and I'm so excited to watch your up and coming YouTube channel. That I'm just going to task that to you now. But no, I really like initially too how you broke down, and this is something for everybody to think about too, is the different types of jargon that come into play, especially when you're communicating about your projects. Jargon and then cursive knowledge too. So this technical nitty gritty details, and like you, Kushbu, said, you're like, I'm an engineer, but I'm more of a maker. Like that term just feels more right and sits better with me internally, and like maker, creator. And these are terms that the general public, as much as I hate that word and can go on rants about that, put that aside. The general public can understand like what a maker, what a creator is, compared to, you say engineer, and they're just like, oh, wall up, not going to talk to you anymore. And so I love that you broke down that detail. And the other thing too is when it comes to your brand, you are tasked, you have you don't have a leg up, so to say, but you're selling a sense of community. And so in bringing together other makers in this space and showcasing their stories and helping them tell their stories and find details and sharing mistakes and all of that jazz, like selling community is a lot. I say this from experience with SAI, selling a community is a lot easier than selling an individual, because so many more people can connect in that standpoint. And so if we need to have a one-on-one chat with that, let me know. I'd love to play around and brainstorm.
For sure. I would love that. Thank you.
It's really, I'll say though, it's hard to keep going. The activation energy is really, really high.
Yes, that's the one downfall. Is it's a nice steady uphill, but keeping it steady, it can be a little tough. But
yeah, but once you have the momentum though, it's like a big ship, right? You can't just stop the ship. You stop the engines, well, it keeps moving, right? This is it, right? It's a big monster ship that if you get it moving, things are going to happen, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to do with SAI. Other comments?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about like the future for you. I don't know. I always think really far ahead, but I was like, say this conference is super successful and you set up this website that's advertising it. You could almost turn different sections of the website into maybe a blog that's featuring different makers and their processes. So, you have this connection, when you're not at conference and building up to that. And you could even have a forum incorporated into your website where people can actively exchange ideas and things like that. And so I'm just thinking, I was like, this is something you could really build off of and make it a huge community.
For sure. I love the forum idea. That's super cool. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
I love all of that because it just reminds me of the internet in 2005, back when it wasn't toxic. So just like, no, it's just a blog, and like people be nice, and you can have a forum and it won't be filled with white nationalists and it'll all be good.
That is so true. Yeah.
Again, well, with all of you, at the base of all this is really about communicating who you are and what you're doing. That's it. Right? Who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it and for whom. So when I mentioned that the website is kind of the basic thing we want you all to have at the end of this, it's essentially that, a platform where you can articulate and tell this story effectively, right? You can share updates, you can share progress, right? So if you were, it's a little fun fact, you can use the Wayback, I think it's called the Wayback Time Machine. You can go back to SAI's first iteration of its website, its current version of the website. You can go back in time and see how it was when we actually launched. Very scary. Because yeah, it wasn't pretty. But we were trying, like the message was there, but all the other bells and whistles were not there, right? Because remember I told you the branding and all these other things, the colors and everything came later. But we were trying to focus on, okay, what are we trying to say, for whom, where, and why? If you're going to use Twitter, you're going to use Instagram, why? What are you trying to do, right? What are you trying to do? And why is this the right platform? I think it's really critical to have those questions in mind at all times and not be swayed by, oh my God, everyone's on Twitter, so I should go there, right? Or LinkedIn and everything. You got to do it intentionally. You got to have intention on this, or else it's going to be really, I think you'll find yourself trying to do everything and then you burn out. Okay. So lots of, let's see, Sam, what are you sharing? Can you, you found it already.
I'm a librarian, so I immediately found the resource and shared it.
Of course, Sam, of course. Why did I even doubt that? Thank you. So the link is there. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube later, just go online. It's there. Sam has found it somehow. Okay, so Claire, any parting comments?
I think you have all done so much great thinking on your brands and how your project fits into yourselves and how you can then, and now it's just a matter of thinking about how you can spin your stories and share that with your communities and your target audience groups. And like Fanwell said, doing this with intention gets you a lot further than just doing it to do it or doing it because you have to. There's the whole, when you think about, there's so many like marketing campaigns and schemes and PR crap that's out there, and you don't want your message to get lost in the crowd. So really take some time, think things through, and day by day and step by step, you will pursue and further out and expand your missions and really reach the people that you need to be reaching and getting in front of funders and potential clients out there as well.
It's a slow process, really, really slow process, but be patient with it. Please be patient with it. Okay, so let me show
viral
you.
too one day, so that might just.
Yeah, you could go viral indeed, exactly. And then helping each other too, by the way, right? So again, I'll say this again. If you, like Sam, if there's something that you want us to tweet and reboost, right? And now and in the future for all of you, right? Just let us know. You're part of the fam now. So we're here and you can, we have access now. Don't follow our model. We are in multiple platforms, okay? But because we are integrated, because our message is to get this sort of broadly to people, right? Share your stories to the broad community. Hence we are everywhere. Okay, so just to show you this, again, the logic model. So there's a slide here that's actually missing. Some of you can probably guess which one it is. It's very obvious, I think, from my end. Everything we've been talking about today. Let's do the first slide. Okay, like, hey, who are you? Right. So I recommend at least you share like very quickly. So I am Kushbu, I am an engineer and this and that, right? In one slide, right? Just so people know who you are, right? And then you can bug them. Let me tell you, I've been having this problem, blah, 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 blah. You see how it just builds into the story, right? And the solution is blah. And then, but let me tell you, there are a couple of people in this landscape who are doing this work. Our approach is better and different in this way, right? And let me tell you what we've done so far. Traction slide, right? And this is how we're going to fund this thing. Funding slide, and the people and what we're doing next. So I hope, feel free to experiment if you feel like you want to tell a slightly different way here, feel free to do it. But again, 5 minutes pitch, and then we're gonna have a really deep, like what we've been doing so far in all these sessions, 10-minute Q&A, right? So it should be walk in the park for you at that stage, because you would have received all the critiques, shall we say, and the tense feedback from us here. Okay, so with that, we are done for today. Any questions, comments? Oh, Sam, let's see. Will we get big boots if the right person shares your work? Yes, indeed. If the right person shares your work, you can get out there. Yes, and okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, Claire is around, okay? She's on Slack. If you want to ping her at any time, you want to just share some insights, feel free to do that. I'm around as well, as you know. So hopefully I'll see you Saturday, hopefully. And I'm around for a couple of minutes here if people want to chat later. Thanks, everybody.